Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Pavirajakatarya Astota Sata Shishimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON founder BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jai Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Pavirajakatarya Astota Sata Shishimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Prem se go Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki. Shri Navadvip Mayapur Ki. Shri Mathur Vrindavan Dham Ki. Ganga Mai Ki. Yamuna Mai Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Tulasi Devi Ki. Shamaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Nitai Gauda Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 11, Swayambhavu Manu advises Dhruva Maharaj, and text 28. Ya Panchavashso Jananim Tvam Vihaya Matu Sapatnya Vachasa Binamarma Vanam Gataha Tapasa Pratyag Aksham Aradhya Lebe Murdni Padam Trilokyaha Ya Panchavasho Jananim Tvam Vihaya. Matu Sabatnya Vajasabina Marma Vanangata Stapasa Pratyagaksham Aradhya Lebe Murdni Padam Trilokya. Ya Panchavasho Jananim Tvam Vihaya Matu Sapatnya Vajasabina Marma Vanangata Stapasa Pratyagaksham Aradhya Lebe Mudni Padam Trilokyaha. Ya Panchavasho Jananim Tvam Vihaya Matu Sapatnya Vajasabina Marma Vanangata Stapasa Pratyagaksham Aradhya Lebe Mudni Padam Trilokyaha. Have you found it? 4:11:28. Ya Panchavasho Jananim Tvam Vihaya Matu Sapatnya Vajasabina Mama Anamgata Stapasa Pratyagaksham Aradhya Lebe Mudni Padam Trilokyaha. Ya Panchavasho Jananim Tvam Vihaya Matu Sapatnya Vajasabina Marma Anamgata Stapasa Pratyagaksham Aradhya Lebe Mudni Padam Trilokya. Ya Panchavasho Jananim Tabasa pratyagaksham Aradya lebe mudni padam trilokyaham. Word for word translation. Yaha, one who. Panchavashaha, 5 years old. Jananim, mother. Tvam, you. Vihaya, leaving aside. Matuhu, of the mother. Sapatnya, of the co-wife. Vachasa, by the words. Bina marma, aggrieved at heart. Vanam, to the forest. Gataha, went. Tapasa, by austerity. Pratyag aksham, the Supreme Lord. Aradhya, worshipping. Lebe, achieved. Murdni, on the top. Padam, the position. Trilokya, of the three worlds. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. My dear Dhruva, at the age of only 5 years, you were very grievously afflicted by the words of your mother's co-wife, and you very boldly gave up the protection of your mother and went to the forest to engage in the yogic process for realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As a result of this, you have already achieved the topmost position in all the three worlds. Purport. Manu was very proud that Dhruva Maharaj was one of the descendants in his family, because at the age of only 5 years, Dhruva began meditating upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and within 6 months, he was able to see the Supreme Lord face to face. Factually, Dhruva Maharaj is the glory of the Manu dynasty, or the human race. The human family begins from Manu. The Sanskrit word for man is Manusya, which means descendant of Manu. Not only is Dhruva Maharaj the glory of the family of Svayambhuva Manu, but he is the glory of the entire human race, the entire human society. Because Dhruva Maharaj had already surrendered to the Supreme Godhead, he was especially requested not to do anything unbefitting a surrendered soul. Om Jnana-Timirandasya Jnananjana-Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa-Karamaya Dadati Svambarandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Paragamaram Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghuram Tavitam Tam Sajevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Shihitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padansaha Gana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kantarada Kantanamastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapadrubhasha Kripa Sindhubiva Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Ya Panchavasho Jananim Tvam Vihayam Matu Sapatna Vachasa Bina Marma Vanam Gatas Tapasa Pratyag Aksham Aradya Lebe Mudni Padam Trilokyaha. My dear Dhruva, at the age of only 5 years, you were very grievously afflicted by the words of your mother's co-wife, and you very boldly gave up the protection of your mother and went to the forest to engage in the yogic process for realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As a result of this, you have already achieved the topmost position in all the three worlds. So, this pastime of Dhruva Maharaj that now Svayambhavu Manu is now recollecting and reciting back to Dhruva Maharaj, it's an example of a turning point in his life. And we all experience these turning points in our life. And one of the biggest, of course, is when we came to Krishna consciousness. And that all started with Shraddha, or faith. Faith that this Krishna consciousness movement is going to bring us something better than what we've experienced in the material world. So we decided that we wanted to put our faith in this Hare Krishna movement. And by doing this, this was a very important time and turning point in our lives. For me, I remember the first time I had read Srila Prabhupada's books, and just his purity, his sincerity, and his selflessness really attracted me. And just by his words and his instructions, I wanted to adopt that lifestyle of a devotee, just because he was so sincere in what he said. I never imagined that someone could actually be so selfless as Srila Prabhupada. So just because of his selflessness and sincerity, I believed 10% in all of his words, that he has our best interest at heart. So for me, this was my turning point and a very monumental time in my life. So Dhruva Maharaj, we know, at the age of 5 years old, he couldn't solve a problem. He had a problem and he couldn't solve it. He was afflicted by the harsh words of his stepmother. He wanted a kingdom greater than his father, grandfather, great-grandfather. But he knew that he needed help with this. So his mother advised him to seek the help of God, that only God can help you. So at that point, he saw himself in need of God, or Krishna. So in our lives, in joining this ISKCON movement, we have joined, but have we really joined? The moment that we actually join and become a devotee is when we accept our complete helplessness, and when we actually turn to Krishna in this helplessness, knowing that we can only depend on him. And this starts when we start a sincere relationship with the Lord, or sambandha. So this word sambandha is really nice. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela chapter 7, text 106 in the purport, the Vedanta Sutra consists of 4 chapters. The first 2 chapters discusses the relationships of the living entity with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is known as Sambandha Gyan, or knowledge of the relationship. Then the 3rd chapter describes how one can act in his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is called Abhidhyaya Gyan. The relationship of the living entity with the Supreme Lord is described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jivera Svarupa Haya Krishnera Nityadas. So the living entity is an eternal servant of Krishna, the Supreme God. Therefore, to act in that relationship, one must perform sadhana bhakti, or the prescribed duties of service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is called Abhidhyaya Gyan. And then the 4th chapter describes the results of such devotional service, Prayojana Gyan, this ultimate goal of life, to go back home, back to Godhead. So that's just a little definition of the sambandha, which we all need, having a relationship with Krishna. So us being conditioned souls, well, I can't speak for everyone, but me, conditioned soul, the life of a conditioned soul, it doesn't just end when we join the temple or join ISKCON or this movement, or when we begin some sadhana. It actually only ends when we become sincere in our relationship and sincere in our endeavor to have a relationship with Krishna. And to do this, we must try live in this consciousness of surrender. Like we see Svayambhavu Manu says, you are a surrendered soul. He's a surrendered soul, Dhruva Maharaj, so he must act like one. And living in this consciousness of surrender, we must think and we say, Krishna, I have forgotten you for so many lives, but now today I surrender unto you. I want to try be a sincere and serious servant to you. Please accept me. But this is not just once that we have to do. We have to constantly live in this mood and this consciousness. Like, Krishna, I've forgotten that I have a relationship with you. I chase after all of these temporary relationships and fleeting happinesses, thinking it to be real, but actually the only real relationship and only Krishna is the real source of love and happiness. So even if when we proclaim to be a member of ISKCON, the temple, and so on, it cannot actually replace our individual decision to surrender. And when we actually all individually decide to put our lives in Krishna's hands, then actually collectively as a movement we can flourish and prosper. And then that's another big turning point in our lives, when we actually sincerely want to make a relationship with Krishna. And this is only possible when we have that mood. We develop a mood in the heart, Sevanmukhe. And this Sevanmukhe in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 17:136, Ata Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhavegrayam Indraya Sevanmukhi Jivado Svayam Eva Spurati Adaha. Therefore, material senses cannot appreciate Krishna's holy name, form, qualities, and pastimes. When a conditioned soul is awakened to Krishna consciousness and renders service by using his tongue to chant the Lord's holy name and taste the remnants of the Lord's food, the tongue is purified, and one gradually comes to understand who Krishna really is. And this is also in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So this Sevanmukhi is turning our face towards service to Krishna. And this is how we actually develop this sambandha, this relationship with Krishna. So Satyananda Maharaj, he gave a lecture on this verse, and he spoke about how us as jivas, actually we have this power within us, and this power is the inclination to do service. And this power sleeps in all of us, in all of the souls, like how fire sleeps in wood or a match. And all we have to do is to invoke this power, and this power is evoked through service. And Krishna is very kind. He actually accommodates everyone according to how we want to serve him. You know, we see him act as the naughty son to his mother, Mother Yashoda, or mischievous cowherd boy to his Gopa friends. So that's how they want to serve Krishna, and he accommodates this fire-like desire to serve him. So we know that Krishna actually comes under the control of his servants, and that he feels like he wants to accommodate them. But in our conditioned state at the moment, this service attitude and this desire for service it's not so great as what it can be. And it can actually be wiped out and extinguished pretty easily if there's some difficulties or obstacles. We get sick, we're tired, or this and this, then we feel like, okay, let's just stop. But this is not the case for people that actually have that desire to serve and that attachment for service. Like we see in the life of Kadambini Swami, that even when he was in Vrindavan so ill, he could do so much, and he could still give so much, because he's attached to the service. He wasn't attached to his body. So his body was in a condition not favorable to service, but it never stopped him, because he was attached to the service and had that desire to serve. So, Shishi Radha Radhanath ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. So when we serve Krishna with some sincerity, that fire-like desire for more service becomes bigger. So this is a time where we can actually introspect in our own lives and think, how big is my desire to serve? How big is my fire? Is it very weak, and that when we face difficulties we just stop serving? So Satyananda Maharaj also mentioned that how when we have a weak fire or a weak desire to serve, we will always feel burnt out, and it will always be burnt out. And he said we will suffer the coldness of the heart. I really like that. But when we actually increase our service and our desire and inclination to serve, we can become like a blazing fire. And then through this blazing fire, we can actually burn our false ego. And this false ego is actually what is keeping us from wanting to serve Krishna more. Because we think, because of our false ego, we think, what is in it for me? What am I going to get? And my Guru Maharaj, he always, does this little funny thing like, so much for Krishna, so much for me, so much for Krishna, so much for me. But actually Krishna is interested in what we are holding back. So yes, this relationship, this sambandha with Krishna is based on service. And how do we do that? So this actually starts to take place when we actually hear and actually properly listen to the holy name and serve the holy name in all seriousness. So I want to read that verse again. Therefore, material senses cannot appreciate Krishna's holy name, form, qualities, and pastimes. When a conditioned soul is awakened to Krishna consciousness and renders service by using his tongue to chant the Lord's holy name and taste the remnants of the Lord's food, the tongue is purified, and one gradually comes to understand who Krishna really is. So this stresses the importance of attentive chanting, Krishna cannot be understood by the material senses or even by our own endeavor. But when we sincerely actually turn towards him and we desire to serve him, then that desire actually attracts him. Again, in my own personal life, before Krishna consciousness, I was not having a very good time. And I don't know what I was really praying to, because I didn't know Krishna or anything like that, but I knew there was some kind of higher power. So I had prayed to the universe or whatever, and I said, please put me exactly where I need to be, even if it's going to hurt me. And then very soon after that, I actually started to I made a devotee. And then in Cape Town, I made a devotee, and I went once to like the Govindas. And I just had an inkling, like a small little desire to do something for the temple that they might like or that they needed. And in the end, I didn't actually do this for them because I had to go back to Pretoria and I had to leave. But just because I had that small little desire, Krishna saw it, and from that, it brought me closer to devotional service. And then I started reading Srila Prabhupada's books, but I didn't know anyone, I didn't know the devotees, and I couldn't get to the temples yet. But from reading, I had such an intense desire to know what is devotional service, what is bhakti yoga, and I really want to meet these devotees that I read about in these books. And then from that desire, Krishna fulfilled it, and I made so many wonderful devotees who were so happy to share, what is Krishna consciousness with me. So just by having that desire, it was so small, and I just had like an interest really, that attracted Krishna, even though I knew nothing about spiritual life. So from this experiences for myself, it's important for all of us to find even just a small spark of interest in someone and fan that interest until it also becomes a blazing fire. We see at this temple there are so many services to be done, and all that we need to do is just start to engage people in it. And then this will also set ablaze their fire of desire to serve, and it will also increase our desire to serve. Because this fire is the only thing that is going to extinguish the fire of material desires. So when we do service for Shishi Radhanath, we should do it in Sambandha, in relationship with Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada, he talks about that this chanting is a way to always keep the company of Krishna within our heart. So that means chanting with focus and for Krishna. And on that topic, I wanted to talk about Burijan Prabhu's Japa book, which I highly recommend. And he gives nine keys to help in the japa. So key 1 is just chant Hare Krishna. So simple as that. Just start chanting and continue chanting no matter what. Then key 2, listen to just one mantra. So he says to not think about all the many rounds you still have to do, or think about all the things you have to do in the day, but to just focus on hearing at least one mantra, so the mind won't get into like a complete panic by having to think of all the rounds, but just thinking of one. Then key 3, state your determination or your sankalpa. And that sankalpa is, I will listen to just one mantra. Even properly hearing with full attention one mantra will bring about all perfection. And then key 4, from wherever the mind wanders, we just bring it back to hearing just the one mantra. Then key 5, detachment. So this detachment means that we don't dwell on all of the bad rounds that we chanted, all the rounds that we didn't hear, or we get stuck on some thought, but be detached from all of that. Let it go and just come back to hearing one mantra. Then key 6, neglect the mind. So don't take the mind so seriously. Like for me, I take my mind way too seriously. But the point is to actually neglect it. You are not the mind. We should disobey the mind's orders. So I wanted to read from this book some parts that it talks about this neglecting the mind. Still, the mind is so strong that we may find ourselves needing extra help to control it. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur suggests the broomstick and shoe method. Srila Prabhupada writes, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say that in the morning, our first business should beat the mind with shoes 100 times, and before going to bed, to beat the mind 100 times with a broomstick. In this way, one's mind can be kept under control. But then we go on. So beating the mind is the first technique, but it doesn't always work for everyone. Because sometimes if we're too aggressive in the attack, the mind goes into a spasm and ignores our orders. So Raghunath Das Goswami in his Mana Shiksha writes, he tries to plead with the mind, begging it to become its friend. "O mind, I grasp your feet and beg you with sweet words. Please throw away all your pride and develop intense, extraordinary love for my spiritual master, for Vrajabhumi, for the people of Vraj, for the Vaishnavas, for the Brahmanas, for the Gayatri mantra, for the holy name, and for the transcendental shelter that is the youthful couple of Vraj." So then he goes on, Burijan Prabhu, and says that pride actually sits in the mind, the ever-present representative of false ego, but it can be conquered by offering oneself wholeheartedly as the affectionate servant of the spiritual master and the holy places, persons, and things mentioned in this verse. So then key 7 is humility. So I wanted to read then what he says about humility. "We cannot control Krishna's response to our humble attempts to chant. Neither can we control what karmic reactions he has arranged for our purification. We are completely dependent on his mercy." So Srila Prabhupada, he in a lecture, he talks about this. So we must be purely chanting, but we should not be disappointed, even impure. Therefore, we must have fixed chanting process, because we are not in the pure stage. Therefore, by force, we had this training in our childhood school. Our teacher would ask, "You write 10 pages handwriting." So that means practicing 10 pages, my handwriting will be set up. So if we do not even follow 16 rounds, where is the question of chanting Hare Krishna? Don't be artificial. Don't be a show bottle. Be real. And that is wanted. If you want real benefit of spiritual life, don't be show bottle. If one can chant purified, offenseless, once Krishna Nam, he is free from all material bondage. Once only. Eka Krishna Nama Kara Sarva Papahaya. So again, that's what Burijan is stressing here. Even if you just hear it once, all perfection. Then key 8 is Namashraya, which means taking shelter of the holy name. And on that note, Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in his Gita Vali, "You should understand this essential fact. Life is temporary and filled with various kinds of misery. Therefore, carefully take shelter of the holy name and remain always engaged in his service as your eternal occupation. Desiring to shower benedictions upon all living entities, the sweet name of Krishna has descended to this material universe and shines like the sun in the sky of the heart, destroying the darkness of ignorance. Without the holy name there is nothing within the 14 worlds. Drink the pure nectar of the holy name of Krishna and thus satisfy the soul of Bhaktivinoda." So that's really beautiful. And then key 9, the last key, is Krishna's causeless mercy. And this mercy we can attract from our service, from faith, from hope and our sincerity, and also trying to give up the sense that we are in any control, even of our own spiritual life. So all we can actually do is to just try listen carefully to the holy name and allow our consciousness to actually be touched by the holy name. And it's also okay if we feel discouraged, because we all do. We're chanting and chanting, but what is it doing? Or I can't chant. But it's okay to feel that discouragement, because it means we are understanding that we actually have no qualifications to chant, and we actually only have Krishna to depend on, and that increased dependence on Krishna is good. So we can try our very best to serve Krishna by chanting his holy names, and we can also do this by trying to disconnect with everything else and just letting go of everything around us so we can be free to just focus on the holy name. But also, chanting Hare Krishna also requires us to have that service attitude, that fire-like desire to serve. And how to develop this service attitude, or this fire of Krishna consciousness? And the answer is eagerness. So we find in the Padyavali, which is also in the Madhya Leela 870, there's a discussion between Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Rai. Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Matiha Kriyatam Yari Kuto Pi Labhyate Tatra Lolyam Api Mulyam Ekalam Janmakoti Sukrate Na Labhyate. Pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness cannot be had even by pious activities in hundreds and thousands of lives. It can be attained only by paying one price, that is intense greed to obtain it. If it is available somewhere, one must purchase it without delay. So this lolyam, this greed, and first it starts with eagerness. Well, eagerness is an increased form of desire. So it starts with desire. Our life here actually in the material world also started with desire. So our life back in the spiritual world can also start with desire, to go back. So when this desire becomes stronger, it becomes eagerness. And when eagerness becomes even stronger, it becomes lolyam, it becomes greed. I must have this. And where do we get this strong greed to obtain Krishna consciousness? And of course we all know that by associating with those that have that intense greed. And also by serving. So by associating with those that have this intense greed for Krishna consciousness, it also influences our desires. And this association, it doesn't always mean the physical proximity. We know that we can associate with Prabhupada, the acharyas, our spiritual master, just by their teachings. So reading, listening to classes every day, this will also influence our desire to serve more and to serve the holy name. So in summary, we can also become a big blazing fire through our service mood by increasing our inclination and mood of service. And by this, it will burn our material desires and our false ego. And also we need to serve the holy name, and we can only really chant once we actually enter into this relationship with Krishna. And this is through service. So let's stop there. Does anyone want to share anything or add any comments?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. It's on.
Hare Bo. So I just want to read a prayer to Sri Krishna from Srila Prabhupada. It says, "My dear Krishna, please remind me to always chant your holy name. Please do not put me into forgetfulness. You are sitting within me as super soul, so you can put me into forgetfulness or into remembering you. So please do not put me into forgetfulness. Please always remind me to chant. Even you send me into the hell, it doesn't matter. Just so long as I can always chant Hare Krishna." This is a letter to Devananda on the 23rd of November 1968.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, because that's the devotee's greatest fear, is to be forgetful of Krishna.
And I have a question for you. I always want to know what it means to exploit the holy name. I really don't understand that.
Exploit the holy name?
Yeah. So if someone can explain that.
Exploiting it. Well, where did you hear that from? Who is exploiting the holy name? Can the holy name be exploited? I feel like the holy name is so pure that it's always pure. So I'm not really sure about that. I guess when, like the seventh offense to chant, the holy name on the strength of chanting the holy, committing sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord, the seventh offense. I guess that's the thing that comes into mind for me when we think, Krishna's holy name can purify all my sins, eradicate all sins, so let me just continue sinning. So I guess for me that's what I would understand as what exploiting the holy name would be. Raghunath says that's correct. Thank you. Is that okay? Would you like to say anything? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.